¿A dónde está papi? 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 ¿A dónde está papi?
Welcome to the, Tuesday? I'm sorry, what day is it today? No, it can't be. Wednesday, I apologize. Welcome to the Wednesday stream. I hope everyone's having an awesome Wednesday morning. Hey Astro, how's it going?
¿A dónde está papi?
On today's program, we will continue our journey through the IPCC report, among other couple of headlines. I do appreciate all of you guys bearing with me through all this. It is important to discuss every time a new report like this comes out, that's for sure. Good afternoon from a gray 9 degrees Celsius. What? How much is 9 degrees? I always forget. 9 Celsius to Fahrenheit. 48? What? Well, that's not too bad. Bit chilly. Here we are at a current crisp 81 degrees Fahrenheit. We are at a crisp 81 degrees Fahrenheit. 81 Fahrenheit. Which for reference is 27 Celsius. For you guys, I guess. That is extremely hot. warm, I should say. Outdoor coat weather. Oh yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Hey Thundera, how's it going? 30 degrees where I am. Nice. That is even chillier. Even chillier than the 48. So I've been doing a lot of work behind the scenes last night to I've been doing a lot of work behind the scenes last night to work on a new audio setup. So I hope that this isn't too bad. I hope that this sounds a-okay for you folks. I believe that's Fahrenheit. It sounds fine. Yes, okay. We're good. We're good. We're good. Sweet. F is sub-zero. No, is it? Well, yeah, kind of. Right? Water freezes at 32, yeah? Water freezes at 32 degrees Fahrenheit, so therefore it is below freezing. Kind of. It's gotta get a little bit colder than that before you start seeing, like, you know, frozen stuff. But yeah. There's some snow on the ground, but not a lot. Okay. Cool. I think when we were at my, friend's wedding a couple months ago, we had ice on our windshield, but that's only when the temperatures got like mid to high 20s is when we started seeing that. At 30 degrees Fahrenheit, you will soon be melting. 30 degrees Celsius or 30 degrees Fahrenheit? Because 30 degrees Fahrenheit is 80 something, is it not? Sorry. 30 degrees Celsius is 80 plus, right? Almost 85. (30 degrees Celsius to Fahrenheit. Yeah, 86. I was almost close. Almost close. Yeah, 86 is hot. That's just normal Miami weather. That's just like normal South Florida weather. That is literally the norm. In Michigan in the winter, it can usually get in the negatives, but not this year. Interesting. I think that's where I draw the line. If you're giving me negative temperatures, yeah, no, thank you. I think that's where we draw the line. So are the alligators. The alligators are chilling. The Florida alligator, chilling. It gets so cold that it hurts your face. What? Yikes. Yeah, I don't know. Thank you. Hard pass on that one. Thank you. Not as bad as an Aussie salty, like a saltwater crocodile. Yikes. The saltwater crocs are... I think that the crocodile is more aggressive, is it not? And they're usually bigger, I want to say. I think the crocs are just in general bigger. And more aggressive, from what I understand. Yeah, okay. Gotcha. Alright, folks, we've got some ground to cover. Let's get this show on the road, yeah? First up, Congress on Tuesday, yesterday, passed legislation that would shore up the U.S. Postal Service and ensure a 6-day-a-week mail delivery, sending the bill to President Biden to sign into law. The long-fought postal overhaul has been years in the making and comes amid a widespread complaint about the mail service slowdowns. Many Americans became dependent on the postal service during... I never understood this. Like, they go into this as a... in this article, as if the post office is some type of business, right? As if the post office is some type of business. The name is not United States Postal Business, United States Postal Incorporated. The name is United States Postal Service. It is a service. It is not designed to be a business because it's not. The whole reason for the postal service to exist is to make sure that everybody has access to their mail. That's literally the point of the postal service. It's to make sure that people have access to their mail. I mean, it's called the United States Postal Service. not the United States Postal Incorporated. Like our National Health Service, sure, it's a universal thing where it's not designed to run as a business, it's designed to run as a service. But officials have repeatedly warned that without congressional action, it would run out of cash by 2024. The post office usually delivers for us, but today we're going to deliver for them, Senator Majority Leader Chucky Schumer, Democrat of New York. Congress mustered rare bipartisan support for the Postal Service package, dropping some of the more controversial proposals to settle on core ways to save the service and ensure its future operations. Last month, the House approved the bill 342 to 92, with all Democrats and most Republicans voting for it. On Tuesday, the Senate sent it to Biden's desk on 79 to 19 votes. Republican Senator Jerry Moran said the Postal Service has been in a death spiral that is particularly hard on rural Americans, including in his state of Kansas, as post offices shuttered and services were cut. Smart reforms were needed. The Postal Service Reform Act would lift unusual budget requirements that have contributed to the Postal Service red ink and was set into law the requirement that the mail is delivered 6 days a week except in the case of federal holidays, natural disasters, and other few situations. Yeah, I mean, like... So it was just a vote to on a bill to fund the Postal Service? Yeah, to basically keep it going. Postage sales and other services were supposed to sustain the Postal Service, but it has suffered a 14 straight year of losses. Again, they act as if this is a business. Perhaps you should bring back the Pony Express. I think that is that not the evolution of the Postal Service, right? That was the whole kind of evolution from it. It's basically that, yeah? Growing workers' compensation and benefit costs plus steady decline in mail volume have contributed to the red ink, even as Postal Service delivers to 1 million additional locations every year. The bill would end a requirement that the Postal Service finance workers' healthcare benefits ahead of time for the next 75 years, an obligation that private companies and federal agencies do not face. Instead, the Postal Service would require future retirees to enroll in Medicare and would pay current retirees actual healthcare costs that aren't covered by federal health insurance program for older people. I think what they mean is Medicare, right? Is that not what that is? Gone for now are the ideas of cutting back on mail delivery, which has become politically toxic. Also set aside for now other proposals. Wait, what? Yeah, how could you cut back on mail delivery? That is ridiculous. That's not going to happen. Or it shouldn't happen because, well, what if private companies aren't willing to go out of their way to, render service to areas that they deem, unprofitable? The privatization of the Postal Service is to me a non-starter. Also set aside for now other proposals that have been floated over the years to change the postal operations, including those to privatize some service. Yeah, well, not the mail is politically toxic. The idea of cutting back mail deliveries is politically toxic because, well, people need their mail. And especially in rural areas, they rely often exclusively on the Postal Service to sometimes even get important stuff like medication. Hey, Androma, how's it going? Howdy. What are we covering? Congress is patting themselves on the back for doing basic necessities. The second some of these operations get privatized, that's when it's all going to go to shit. Guaranteed. Senator Gary Peters, a Michigan Democrat and the chairman, because contrary to popular belief, privatization isn't always better. Senator Gary Peters, a Michigan Democrat and the chairman of Homeland Security and Government Affairs Committee, helmed the legislation and said that since the nation's founding, the Postal Service has become a part of the fabric of our nation. Peter said the legislation would ensure the Postal Service can continue its nearly 250-year tradition of delivering service to the American people. Beyond cards and letters, people rely on the post office to deliver government checks, prescription drugs, which we talked about just a second ago, and many goods purchased online, but ultimately delivered to doorsteps and mailboxes by the Postal Service. We need to save our Postal Service, said Senator Ron Portman, Republican of Ohio, another architect of the bill. Portman said that the bill is not a bailout and no new funding is going to the agency. Well, I mean, again, this is a weird framing. This isn't like a company that needs a bailout. It is just a basic funding of a service that should be available to everybody, regardless of where they live. Hey, Thinking Sabercat. Non-political story of a ship that was lost for 107 years. Jesus. Well, if we have time, we'll get to it, that's for sure. Criticism of the Postal Service peaked in 2020 ahead of the presidential election as cutbacks delayed service at a time when millions of Americans were relying on mail-in ballots during the first year of the COVID crisis. At the time, former President Trump acknowledged he was trying to starve the Postal Service of money to make it harder to process an unexpected surge of mail-in ballots, which he worried could cost him the election. The mail-in ballots don't cost you an election if the mail-in ballots are for you, right? What a weird framing. Dominated by Trump's appointees, the agency's board of governors had tapped Louis DeJoy, a major GOP donor, as the new postmaster general. He proposed a 10-year plan to stabilize the service's finances with steps like additional mail slowdowns, with cutting some office hours and perhaps higher rates. To measure the Postal Service progress at improving its service, the bill would also require to set up an online dashboard that would be searchable by zip code to show how long it takes to deliver letters and packages. The legislation is approved by Congress and is supported by Biden, the Postal Service Postal Worker Union, and others. Mark Dimmenstein, the president of the American Postal Workers Union, called the passage of the legislation a turning point in the fight to protect and strengthen the people's public postal service, a national treasure. Well, it's a necessity. Right, it's being framed as a business bailout. For some weird reason. Like I said, it's not the Postal Service. It's not the United States, like Postal Incorporated, right? It's the U.S. Postal Service. It's a service that's supposed to be rendered. Yeah, it's not meant to be super profitable. Do we scrutinize the military in the same way? No, no, no. That gets a rubber stamp. That never gets questioned. Maybe we should be framing this every time the military budget comes up for renewal and it gets an increase. We should just be calling it like a bailout, like a military bailout. Every time this comes up, we should just be calling it a military bailout. Or, yeah. Yes, DeJoy is still there, I believe. They weren't accepting signatures in crayons, so most of the Mechas couldn't use the postal vote. True. That's funny. So Congress finally does a thing. I guess. I mean, like, it's not really controversial to just say, like, we need the Postal Service and we need to make sure that it is funded properly. I don't think that should be very controversial. Switching gears to Florida. Surprise, surprise. Surprise, surprise. Remember when this guy said he had absolutely nothing to do with anything? He wasn't even there that day. Folks, Mr. Enrique Tarrio. Yeah. This is a good meme. Although, why do they put it as ex-Proud Boy leader? He is the leader. Is he not? Enrique Tarrio arrested in Miami in connection with the Capitol riot. The former leader of the right wing. Okay, hold on. I think we're doing some downplaying over here. To my knowledge, he is the current leader. So the current leader of the far right gang, the Proud Boys, was arrested in Miami Tuesday morning in connection with the January 6th Capitol riot. The attorney for Enrique Tarrio confirmed that he was taken into custody at a home on Northwest 2nd Street, where FBI and other law enforcement were conducting a raid. Tarrio, 38, was indicted on one count of each conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding and obstruction of an official proceeding, as well as 2 counts for each of assaulting, resisting, or impeding certain officers and destruction of property in the Capitol breach. Tarrio appeared in federal court Miami Tuesday, where he was appointed a public defender after his attorney had a conflict of interest. He's due back in court Friday, when a judge will determine if he will be given bond. Tarrio wasn't at the Capitol on January 6. Police had arrested him 2 days before the riot and charged him with vandalizing a BLM banner at a historic black church during a protest in December of 2020. The day before the Capitol was attacked, a judge ordered Tarrio to stay out of Washington. He later served a 5-month sentence in that case. The indictment claims that Tarrio led the advanced planning and remained in contact with other members of the Proud Boys during their breach of the Capitol. So, yeah. He wasn't there, but he was in complete communication during the whole time. I watch everything, and I remember when they had Tarrio on the kill stream. What? Someone re-uploaded to YouTube, and the guy is so dumb. It's amazing how he could be the leader of a stamp collecting club, let alone a terrorist group. True. Well, no one ever said they were smart. The indictment also alleges that Tarrio claimed credit for what happened on social media and an encrypted chat room during and after the attack. Yeah, like, how... This is unbelievable to me, to think that everything is, secret. If you think that your communications can't be listened on, oh boy. After his release from jail earlier this year, Tarrio told NBC6 that if he hadn't been arrested, he would have been at the Capitol that day and would have stopped the Proud Boys from participating in any violence. He lied about that because he was in contact and directing what was going on the ground. I don't agree or condone what happened at the Capitol when it comes to violence. He said, we went to Washington, D.C. with the intent of sitting... Oh, yeah. And, Proud Boys, known for just sitting there. Proud Boys are known for just sitting and supporting President Trump and then drinking beer afterwards. Ah, yes. And obviously I wasn't there. I can't tell you what was in their heads, but I think the mob mentality just took over. Nah, you were there. Well, not physically, but you were directing and in contact during the entire time. This is why when we originally covered this interview, one of the first things I said is that this is a PR stunt. You can't trust anything. You can't trust anything that this guy says because it's all PR. It's all to try to, downplay or rehabilitate their image or not make them look that bad. But it's all a lie. And clearly, he's been arrested in connection with this because he was, well, for all intents and purposes, leading it, or at least at the very least, was absolutely very, very well aware of what was going on during the entire time. The new riot-related charges are among the most serious filed so far, but they aren't their first of their kind. 11 members are associates with the anti-government Oath Keepers militia group, including its founder and leader, Stuart Rhodes, was charged on January 12th with seditious conspiracy in the Capitol. I believe somebody has already pleaded guilty to this and is now going to help the investigation. More than 36 people charged in a Capitol siege have been identified by federal authorities as Proud Boy leaders, members, or associates. A New York man pled guilty in December to storming the Capitol with fellow Proud Boy members. Matthew Green was the first Proud Boy to publicly plead guilty to conspiring with other members to stop Congress from certifying the Electoral College vote. Green agreed to cooperate with authorities. Oh yeah, I bet he would have been there too. On the morning of January 6, Proud Boy members met at the Washington Monument and marched to the Capitol before then President Trump finished speaking to thousands of supporters near the White House. Just before Congress convened a joint session to certify the election results, a group of Proud Boys, followed by a crowd of people, who breached the barriers at a pedestrian entrance to the Capitol grounds, an indictment says. Several Proud Boys also entered the Capitol building itself after the mob smashed the windows and forced doors open. Prosecutors said the Proud Boys arranged for members to communicate through using specific frequencies on Baofeng radios, these Chinese-made devices, which is pretty ironic, to be quite frank. To be pretty frank, that's oh, the irony. Oh man, the irony. The absolute irony. Did you see Nick Fuentes claim that he was never near the official buildings, even though there's photo and video of him 10 feet from the window? Yeah, of course. Nick Fuentes is a neo-Nazi. So yeah, I wouldn't trust a single sentence, a single word that guy says. And these Chinese-made devices can be programmed for use on hundreds of frequencies, making them difficult for outsiders to eavesdrop. In December, a federal judge refused to dismiss an earlier indictment charging 4 alleged leaders of the far-right Proud Boys with conspiracy. U.S. District Judge Timothy Kelly rejected the defense attorney's arguments that the 4 men, Ethan Nordian, Joseph Biggs, Zachary Rell, and Charles Donahue, were charged with conduct that is protected by the First Amendment right to free speech. No. These folks remain jail while awaiting trial scheduled for May. And these folks are the Proud Boy. Nordian of Auburn, Washington, was a Proud Boy chapter president and members of the group's National Elders Council. Biggs of Ormond Beach, Florida, is a self-described Proud Boy organizer. Rell was president of the Proud Boy chapter in Philadelphia. Donahue of Kennersville, North Carolina, also served as a president of his local chapter. Proud Boy members described the group as a politically incorrect men's club for Western chauvinists who use Chinese technology. Its members frequently have brawled with anti-fascist activists, and rallies and protests. Vice Media co-founder Gavin McInnes, who founded these Proud Boys in 2016, sued the Southern Poverty Law Center for labeling it as a hate group. Well, it is. Actually, what's even more funny, I have to watch the Destiny coverage, but tanky lunatic Haas had actually a conversation with Richard Spencer. What? Horseshoe in effect? Nah. No, Haas is a reactionary. They're the same. Not maybe exactly the same, but they're definitely like people like Haas, Infrared, whatever his name is, are incredibly reactionary. Maybe their goals are different. Maybe their goals are different, but they're both reactionary in nature. Especially, I mean, we have what is, oh man, what's that guy's name? Jason Hinkle, whatever his name is, um, saying that you know, he's now gonna vote Republican. Jackson Hinkle, thank you. Yeah, saying that he was gonna vote Republican. We've got like people like Infrared saying that there's like patriot. Oh man, I forget his terminology. Whatever, it's all cringe. Listen, regardless of what anybody thinks, Sam is our Sam is a lot of our daddies, okay? I think it's hilarious. He should be forgettable. Yeah, I mean, like, he's just omega cringe. He's just omega cringe. He is about as insufferable to watch. He is about as insufferable to watch or to listen to than watching Jimmy Dore. He's about just as insufferable. I think in his head, Haas thinks he's Fidel Castro, but really he's shorter than Destiny. Oh my god. And if you mention the back of his head, look, I can't talk, okay? I'm like, to give you a idea, I don't think I cross over the 5'5" line, okay? So I've got no comment on that, alright? I've got no comment on that. And if you mention the back of his head, he will block you instantly because he's known, as he's got what's known in hair loss as the island effect. What? I don't understand why, like, that would trigger you so much. Just wear a beanie like Tim Pool, or like me. And Captain Picard proves that hair doesn't matter. True. I don't understand why you need to be so insecure. Yeah, like this is at the core of it, really. Haas is a insecure person, right? That's what it is. If you care so much about how tall you are, if you care so much about how you look, how much hair, like your hair loss as a man, if you've got all this like aggro kind of machismo attitude, that's just insecurities, my dude. That's just insecurities. That being said, everybody, to some degree, has insecurities in some way, shape, or form. But I mean, like, that's crossing over into unhealthy levels, right? That's the point. That's the point. Like, everyone has some sort of level of insecurities in some way, shape, or form, and when it comes to certain things. But you can't just like let that dictate then, you know, your life. Yeah, just own it. Exactly, just own it. Look, I'm short. I'm short as hell. I'm literally incredibly tiny, and that's okay. I don't. It is what it is. I watched the whole Destiny Dylan Haas Hinkle debate, and it was literally the most frustrating thing I've ever listened to. Yeah, I don't think I could get more than 5 minutes of the moment, like the moment the moment Haas and Tinkle start talking, it like my my brain cells just start shriveling. Haas is basically communist Mike Cernovich. Yeah, but like if you really like look at what he's talking about, he's not really like interested in talking about like the legitimate working class, right? I've never seen him be like super proactive when it comes to the working class. It's all this like weird, twisted ideological dogma that just has some communist rhetoric sprinkled on top of it. Right, the 20% is like the sprinkle on top, but like it just never seems like it just never seems like he's really interested in that. I don't know. Haas kept turning up his gain and unmuting himself when he got muted. Jesus. Haas is like, if you want to talk about some serious leftist audio, he's got to be doing this on purpose. But if you want some serious leftist audio, yeah, there it is. Jack subjected us to the whole thing. Oh man, I'm sorry. Debate bros. Yeah, the only real debate bro is me, okay? The only real legitimate debate bro is me. I am the only valid I'm the only valid debate bro, okay? Until this date, and this is true, I have yet to lose a debate. Did you ever watch Haas making his biggest mistake going on the Qbot show? I don't know what that is. Totally, as he was totally owned by her and doesn't understand women's. Oh my god. I'm not gonna get into that. I would prefer if not to not get into that. I don't know what that means. I'm going to assume it means some anatomical reference. In which case, no. That being said, Entroma, Jack subjecting you to the whole entire thing should be against terms of service, okay? That level of harm should be against terms of service. No, please. APFSD, please don't. Please. No, no, no. Anyways, chat, the Proud Boys. The leader of the Proud Boys, surprise, surprise, lied, and is now arrested in connection with the January 6th insurrection. Damn. Who would have thunk it? Truly the biggest surprise Pikachu face. The biggest surprise Pikachu face of the century. All right, this one is going to be a shorter article. The worst thing about Hinkle is he's so boring. Well, the thing about Hinkle is that his politics are just indistinguishable from infrareds. So he's like a copycat. They must be dynamic writers, but there's like dry and funny and constantly preaching. Yeah, that's the whole thing. It's all that. They say a whole lot of nothing. They say a lot of words to say nothing. Lock him up? No. See, the difference is that the chant or the idea behind the lock them up chant was because, well, if they are my political enemy, then I just want to lock them up. This guy actually did, this guy actually did the crimes, allegedly. And that's why he's being locked up. It's not that, they're political enemies and therefore they should be eliminated. It's this dude. This dude obviously did the thing as he was indicted. Which makes sense, especially with his history of crimes. So yeah. All right, folks, this one's going to be a short one, but it is a bit of a dark story. So before we get into it, we just want to do a quick content warning. Give me 1 second, folks. Just 1 second. Sorry about that. All right, sorry about that. Really quickly, content warning. Michigan GOP candidate says he tells his daughters to lie back and enjoy it if this happens to you. I went to a public talk by Philip Pullman of his Dark Matter frame, and I love his writing, but as a public speaker, I was fighting to stay conscious, even though I went to a J.G. Ballard reading. We actually started talking in 2001. We actually started talking to the audience and not a Q&A, just talking about wonderfully, especially as talking America and the environment. Cool. Yeah, this is pretty aft. There have been images of that. Yo, Astro, I have seen some of the most wildest images or videos on Twitter. Man, some of it has been unbelievably wild. I saw one where apparently what seems to be like a Russian armored vehicle opening fire into a civilian car. It was just super bad. And it turned out that the folks in that civilian car were just elderly folks. They were just two elderly couple. It was an elderly couple. I obviously can't show any of that on stream, but my goodness. Needless to say, you can look it up. It was like that really was, that was tough to watch. Not gonna lie, it's just been this constant images and videos. Yeah, it's super horrifying. I've also seen videos of a Russian armored vehicle get hit by, I think, what is it that those are, the anti-tank missiles? What are those anti-tank things called? I want to say javelins or some sort, whatever. It was hit by a thing that's a anti-tank RPG javelin missile, whatever it is. And you could hear the soldiers in the tank get screaming because it was on fire and they couldn't get out. I assume because the video cut away. I mean, I've just seen like the most horrifying stuff that makes me just kind of want to throw up, and never ever want to hear anybody advocating, even remotely advocating for war in any way, shape, or form. I mean, the stuff that has been coming out is just... And we're watching all of this live in our little Doom device. You know? We're watching this all unfold live in our Doom device. Oh, yeah, for sure. Like, it's no bearing, on that fact. But, I mean... Yeah, and you see that. I mean, like, obviously the images are just, oh, look, it's just like a thing being blown up, but there are people in there. There are human beings in there. Like, it's just, my goodness. Yeah, the whole thing is effed. The whole thing is effed. There's an Old Testament guy view of the women. Yeah, yeah. Anyways, well, I did say content warning, so I guess we could insert that in there. Anyways, yeah, GOP candidate he tells his daughters to lie back and enjoy it if SA is inevitable. A Republican candidate favored to win a seat in the Michigan House tells his daughter to just lay back and enjoy it, as he tries to make an analogy about abandoning efforts to decertify the results of the 2020 election. Jesus Christ. We're still on about this. This is March, and then you try to use this horrifying analogy? Robert Reagan, who is running to represent Michigan's District 74 in the state legislature, made these comments during a Facebook live stream Sunday. The discussion was hosted by Rescue Michigan Coalition, a conservative group that supports former President Trump's false claims that the 2020 election was stolen. The Justice Department we know this. During the discussion, fellow panelist Amber Harris, a Republican strategist, told the group that it's too late to continue challenging the results of the 2020 election. Yeah, give it up, bro. Jesus Christ. It's literally 2 years, more than 2 years ago. Instead, move on and focus on future races, to which Reagan replied, yeah, I tell my daughters that, well, if this is inevitable, you should just lie back and enjoy it. Jesus Christ. Yeah. This is just gross. This is just gross. Reagan then moved on to other comparisons, drawing a parallel between his recent victory in the Republican primary and the biblical story of David and Goliath. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, we know this is a Jesus person. There's a new block system as I posted something, but I can't see anything in there that's offensive. What? What does that mean? This guy's effed up. Yeah, this is beyond effed up. As a shock terrorist, however, tried to cut in as Reagan and discussions host, Rescue Michigan Coalition founder Adam DeAngeli moved on. When DeAngeli finally gave Harris the chance to speak, she said Reagan's comments were shameful. Well, then, that you can't listen. This is so like incredibly borderline Stockholm syndrome. If somebody says this in my party, I would want them out. I don't give a shit if they won the primary. I would want them out, because the primary is not the election of the people. The primary is the inter-party thing where the party resolves its own issues there. I don't want anybody like this in my party. I've got advice to give to your daughters. Don't do that. Fight all the time. Yeah, no kidding. What? Why would you even allude to this? Yeah, Reagan's 3 daughters urged voters to not elect him to office. I got checked by mods pop up as I was talking about how Russia's government aren't even recognizing deaths of their own soldiers. Wait, is that here? I mean, we've got a lot of auto mod going on because, of course, Chernobyl got disconnected from the power. Now we've got 48 hours until radioactive spill fills up the air and spreads over Europe. I don't think it's like that. I was monitoring that. I was monitoring that situation. I think it's of concern, but I'm not sure if it's like cataclysmic yet. To my understanding, I could be wrong. I don't know if it's cataclysmic, but it's certainly something of concern. You know what? Instead of me talking all this smack, why don't we look it up before I put my foot in it, Before I put my foot in it. You'd have to have a hurricane to make the sand cooling system in the core to be a threat to Europe. Sounds like Fox News headline. Yeah, I'm not sure. Like I said, I know it's a cause of concern, but I don't know if it's cataclysmic. Can you please send that to me via Whispers, Rai? Ukraine says Russian forces disconnected the plant from the power grid. The operator of the Chernobyl plant announced on Wednesday that its Russian forces disconnected the facility's power grid. Ukrenergo, the state-owned grid Chernobyl plant, wrote in a Telegram post that there's no possibility of restoring the lines because of Russia's military action in the country. Because of the military action of Russian occupiers, a nuclear plant in Chernobyl was fully disconnected from the power grid. The nuclear station had no power supply. The military actions are in progress, so there's no possibility to restore the lines. Russian forces took Chernobyl last month amid its invasion. While it is now closed, the Chernobyl plant requires electricity for cooling, ventilation, and fire extinguishing systems. Ukrenergo wrote in a Facebook post on Wednesday that emergency diesel generators on site that supply the power to critical systems have been turned on, though the fuel is only enough for 48 hours. The Director General of the International Atomic Energy Agency, the United Nations nuclear watchdog, wrote in a statement that a remote data transmission from safeguard monitoring systems installed on Chernobyl has been lost. The agency is looking into the status of safeguard monitoring systems in other locations in Ukraine and will provide further information soon. Ukrainian Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba is now calling for a ceasefire to allow repair units to rectify issues at the plant. The only electrical grid supplying the Chernobyl NPP and all its nuclear facilities occupied by the Russian army is damaged. CNPP lost all electric supply. I call on the international community to urgently demand Russia to cease fire and allow repair units to restore power supply. Reserve diesel generators have 48-hour capacity to power Chernobyl NPP. After that, cooling systems of the storage facility for spent nuclear nuclear fuel will stop making radiation leaks imminent. Okay, so that's not good. Parts of the plant must still be intact. Yes. I don't know about permanently, but they definitely need to fix that ASAP. The radioactive core that went into meltdown is 5 miles below the surface. You literally have to put explosives down it. No, it's not it's not that simple. There's 20,000 spent fuel assemblies at Chernobyl that could not be kept cool during a power outage, and the warming could lead to the release of radioactive censor to the environment. Yeah, yeah, it's true. It is definitely a cause for concern. But I'm not sure, like I said, I don't know how like devastating this is going to be, but it's definitely a cause of concern if radiation starts leaking out again. This is a disaster. This is a disaster. I mean, intact like it's still in use. No, I don't think it's in use. I think that the reason why it's connected to the grid is to maintain the cooling systems and spent fuel. Wait, hold on. Let me clarify. Yeah, while it is now closed, it does require electricity for cooling, ventilation, and fire extinguishing systems. Okay. Yeah. It means that it's quite possible, if this continues, that there will be a potential for radiation leak, and at that point, that's oh boy, yikes. Energoatom said radioactive substances could be released if the plant cannot cool spent nuclear fuel. After the cooling system of a storage facility for spent nuclear fuel will stop making radiation leaks imminent. Yeah, this is like the oh boy, this is giving me some. When was the Chernobyl incident? Wasn't it like in the 80s? Wasn't it like in the 86? Thank you. Yikes. Yikes. With nuclear power, you spend all the money necessary, or you don't bother. Yeah, because anything that goes wrong is just catastrophic. I'm still amazed that they use sand as coolant. Yep. This is bad. I call on the international community to urgently demand Russia to cease fire and allow repair units to restore supply. We'll be keeping an eye on it. It's definitely a cause for concern. The UN nuclear watchdog said the loss of power does not have a critical impact on safety. Heat load of spent fuel storage pool and volume of cooling water is sufficient for effective heat removal without the need of electric supply, but Energodem said that there's 20,000 spent fuel assemblies at Chernobyl that could not be kept cooled during a power outage, and their warming could lead to the release of radioactive substances into the environment. The radioactive cloud could be carried by the wind to regions of Ukraine, Belarus, Russia, and Europe. It said in a statement, without power, ventilation systems at the plant would also not be working, exposing staff to dangerous doses of radiation. Jesus Christ. Yeah, they need to, this needs to be addressed before that, it could lead to that, right, it could lead to that. I found a map with live radiation sensor readings, but they seem to be mostly offline. Yeah, exactly, exactly what that article previously said, that they have no, like, current information. Last data is March 4th. checked it last week. Most of them were online. Some sensors had a huge spike in radiation after Russia struck the radiation storage with the shell. Kind of concerning that so many are down. Yeah. We'll be keeping an eye on this one for sure. If you look, there's a cluster north by the plant. Is that this up here? Zoom out further northwest. Up here? This is not only friendly fire, but this is literally yeah. This is wild. Oh shoot, right here. You're right. If you have leaders like, say, Angela Merkel was a PhD, that they do understand science. If you have a PR man like boy, yeah, they don't understand. Well, I don't know about not understanding or not caring, because I mean, you don't need to be a nuclear scientist to be like, huh, maybe the shit leaking out into the air or into the environment, maybe that's leaking into the air or environment is not good. I don't think it requires a lot of science or PhDs to understand that if there's a nuclear disaster, that could be catastrophic. Maybe. I just hate this out of touch intellectualized appeasement where we should be getting ourselves involved. Well, listen. The problem is we cannot get ourselves involved. There's just no scenario where two nuclear superpowers are going to cross. It's just not going to happen. It can't happen because then it's all bets are off, right? Then it's effed. Then the whole thing is effed. Then the whole thing is effed. It is not the US's place to get involved. That's also true. But like, what bluff? What bluff? The only bluff, like, what bluff that he doesn't have nukes? Because he does. That he won't? Because he will? I don't get it. Russia isn't winning against NATO. Nobody wins. Nobody wins that. That's the whole point. You've got a plant spitting radiation potentially. People are going to get effed with cancer for the next 50 years. Yeah, and beyond. And beyond. Yeah, there's plenty of human rights abuses going on. Yes. I mean, I literally just talked about one that happened not that long ago. But yeah, sit on your ass 20k miles away. What are we supposed to do, my dude? Get ourselves into the nuclear apocalypse? What are we supposed to do, huh? What are we supposed to do? Send troops? We are doing what we can. You realize there's trains getting shelled with cancer patients? Yes, there's a bunch of civilians, kids, who are currently dying. Yes. Yes, there's a bunch of kids and civilians, women, men, children, all dying. Yes. And it's all effed up. You're assuming that we're not doing anything. No one's sitting on their asses. You're assuming that nothing's going on. How do you think the Ukrainians have been able to hold off? Did those humanitarian supplies? Did those military supplies? Did those fuel, jets? Did those things just magically appear in the Ukrainian side? I think you need to relax. We are doing what we can. We've literally sent thousands of military equipment. And you're saying that we're just sitting on our ass? We've spent hundreds of millions of dollars in aid. Yeah, we've had that before. Turkey Point? I don't disagree he's a crazy autocrat. I'm asking, what do you want us to do? Besides all the help that we've been giving, what do you want the United States to do? Oh, so nuclear warfare. Gotcha. So you want nuclear warfare. You want the entire planet to just set off all its nukes. He won't set off nukes? You just said that he was an unhinged, or what did you say? He was a crazy autocrat, is what you said. And you're trying to tell me that he won't set off nukes? How do you know that? The fact that NATO... What? NATO cannot cross swords with a nuclear superpower. Do you understand that? So we're just going to rely on people. We're going to rely on like that one chance of luck that person or that chain of command says no. You're gonna gamble. You're gonna gamble the entirety of the planet on maybe hoping somebody in some level of the chain of command, or several people on the chain of command, to say no. So lets people die from... That hasn't happened yet. It says it is imminent. It hasn't happened yet. Which hasn't happened yet. So I'm going to ask you again. Final question. Last time. What do you want us to do? Your scenario would be far worse than the scenario of a potential... Your scenario is unbelievably worse than the potential of what's happening down in Chernobyl. You do realize that, right? That's what I don't understand. In what scenario does the involvement of the United States not get us into an entirety, into the world into a conflict? Providing defensive weapons and humanitarian supplies. Yeah, that's about as the extent of what our abilities are at this time. Now, should they touch a NATO country, that's on them. That's on them. Should they touch a NATO country, all bets are off, but that won't be because of us. Should he touch a NATO country, all bets are off, but it won't be because of us. It's easy to wash away when intervention could do something, but if America or another NATO power intervenes, it becomes a global conflict with possible casualties in any country, in multiple countries, far beyond what he's suggesting. So, like, the one solution that you have provided is just not feasible. It's just not going to happen. It just can't happen. I don't think you understand what that means. Wiping out air superiority with any of our NATO troops or any NATO planes or any American planes, if it means shooting a single Russian plane out of the sky, it's all bets are off. Yeah, and you know what happened? That Russian plane was shot down. That's pushing the line. Well, if he does touch a NATO country in this conflict, Article 5 will be triggered. Full stop. That's it. Russia didn't attack Turkey. They violated their airspace and got shot down. It is not the same as Russia sending an airplane shooting a missile at Turkey. Two different things. Guaranteed, if that Russian plane would have shot something, that might have spiraled out of control. We bomb Syria all the time, a Russian ally. Yeah, and they can't do anything about it. They can't do anything about it because that's a proxy war that isn't being fought directly. Until you can give me a feasible solution that doesn't involve us getting into a global conflict, then my position remains to do what we've been doing. Benjamin P. Dixon, rating with a party of 18. Thank you so much. Rating with a party of 20. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. The West is just mad Russia's doing what we do. Yeah, I mean, listen, there's a lot of glass houses kind of deal. There's a lot of glass houses kind of deal going on. But the reality is it's unacceptable regardless. It's just unacceptable. The scenario that Russia has pushed and is currently engaging in is just not acceptable. I understand that it's a, glass houses scenario, but Samline the Kind Dragon. We need diplomacy. Yes, we do. Unfortunately, I don't know how far diplomacy is going to get us. I don't know if Putin's even interested in diplomacy. I'm just mad at all countries invading other countries, so I'm fairly consistent at least. Yeah. Exactly. Russia's cynically using the US neocon policy for their own ambitions. They don't give a shit about the US's abuses. It's just convenient. Sure. Yeah. Sure. Unfortunately, that's not stopping the situation on the ground right now. And yeah, we do need diplomacy, but we also need parties who are willing to engage in good faith diplomacy as well. That's part of the problem. We don't have parties willing to engage in good faith diplomacy. We literally had Putin say that there was going to be a ceasefire, and then he began shelling the areas where the civilians were going. So, yeah, I don't trust a single word of what he says. And countries that back totalitarian regimes because they're convenient for capitalism, yeah, or like what we're doing now, where we will lift sanctions on a rival, on a rival country that was deemed totalitarian and was deemed, authoritarian, socialist country, Venezuela. Now we're gonna attempt to lift sanctions to get to get oil because at the end of the day, the almighty dollar is above everything. There's no principles. It was never about Maduro or socialism or whatever. When it comes to the almighty dollar, that's the only principle, folks. I agree. He broke agreements if they gave up nukes. I think there was a security agreement back in the day. I believe that is true, yeah. I understand that, absolutely. Folks, for those coming in from the raid, first of all, thank you so much to the Benjamin P. Dixon Show for the raid. I appreciate you guys hanging out here. If you guys don't know who we are A Difficult Truth. We do news and politics Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. Eastern Time, and we do Saturday Catterdays around noon Eastern Time, so join us there. Make sure you hit the follow button. You get 5 free emotes, and one of those emotes is Vaquita the cat. I appreciate it, and I hope you guys stay and enjoy the show. Thank you, Benjamin P. Dixon. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. That's right. Samaline the Kind Dragon. Thank you. TLDR, this is just unbelievably gross. That was the last story we were going into. Unbelievably gross. Speaking tangentially, Richest 558, thank you for the follow. I appreciate that. I'd love to see what his daughter's response was. All 3 daughters are urging to vote against him. Reagan's 3 daughters urge voters to not elect him to office in a viral tweet during his 2020 bid for the state house. Yeah. Get effed. Quote, if you're in Michigan and 18 plus, please for the love of God, do not vote for my dad for state representative. Tell everybody. That's a good meme. U.S. strikes harder at Putin, banning all Russian oil imports. So it looks like they finally did it. Striking harder at Russia's economy, President Joe Biden on Tuesday ordered a ban on Russian oil imports in retaliation for Putin's onslaught on Ukraine. The major trade action responding to the pleas of Ukraine's embattled leader thrust the U.S. out front as Western nations seek to halt Putin's invasion. If Americans will feel pain too, as the gas pump, Biden acknowledged defending freedom is going to cost. I'm not sure that's... Okay. It's crazy that he said that. Which one? Who? The GOP guy? Really? That's like... It's kind of par for the course. menu. That's right. Okay, so I pulled up an interesting post that I have on my Facebook, but I'm just going to read it after this article. Striking harder Russia's economy, President Biden on Tuesday ordered a ban on Russian oil imports in retaliation for Putin's onslaught on Ukraine. The major trade action responded to the pleas of the Ukrainian embattled leader, thrust the U.S. out front as Western nations seek to halt Putin's invasion. Americans will feel pain. Defending freedom is going to cost, which is weird. Okay. The imports have been a glaring omission in the massive sanctions put in place on Russia over the invasion. Energy exports have been a steady stream of cash flowing to Russia despite otherwise severe restrictions on its financial sector. We will not be part of subsidizing Putin's war, Biden said, calling the new action a powerful blow against Russia's ability to fund the ongoing onslaught. Biden said the U.S. was acting in close consultation with European allies who are more dependent on Russian energy supplies and who he acknowledged may not be able to join immediately. The announcement marked in the latest Biden attempt at cutting Russia off from most of the global economy and ensuring that Ukraine's invasion is a strategic loss for Putin, even if he manages to seize territory. Ukraine will never be a victory for Putin. Ukrainian President Zelensky, I can't even pronounce that, Zelensky said in a tweet, thankful for the U.S. and POTUS's personal leadership in striking in the heart of Putin's war machine and banning oil, gas, and coal from U.S. market, encourage other countries and leaders to follow. Yeah, but our actual market from Russian imports, I think, aren't that big. I don't know. The European Union said this week will commit to phasing out its reliance on Russia for energy needs as soon as possible, filling the void without crippling the EU economies will likely take some time. The UK, which is no longer part of the EU, announced Tuesday that oil and products from Russia will be phased out by the end of the year. Nice. Unlike the US, which is a major oil and gas producer, Europe relies on imports for 90% of its gas and 97% of its oil products. Russia supplies 40% of Europe's gas and a quarter of its oil. The US does not import Russian natural gas. Right, so okay. All right. I don't know what the damage is done. 4% of Russian oil to America, so I don't know what the damage there is. Hey, Spread It Forward, by the way, I'm so sorry. Thank you for joining. How's it going? The issue of oil sanctions has created conflict for the president between political interests at home and efforts to impose costs on Russia. Though Russian oil makes up only a small part of U.S. imports, Biden said that he is reluctantly to ban it, cutting into supplies here and pushing gasoline prices higher. 4% though? Well, to be fair, if there's Russia is a massive player in the energy industry, so anything that happens regarding that does have a fallout across the world. So I guess I could see that. Inflation is at 40-year peak, fueled in part by large gas prices that could hurt Biden heading into the... Yeah. Putin's war is already hurting American families at the gas pump. I'm going to do everything I can to minimize Putin's price hike here at home. Gas prices have been rising for weeks due to conflict and anticipation of potential sanctions on Russian energy sector. The average price for gas has hit a record of $4.17. I think I saw $4.19 in my area. I think I saw $4.19. Oil companies made record profits. The market is not a natural system. It's rigged. Yeah, but I think the way supplies, especially if, the third largest producers, having this issue, it does affect the way the global market works, I think. This is why I don't get into economics, but I think it does have some sort of effect. I just don't know what level of effect and what level is just corporate greed that's kind of on top of that, right? Rising by 10 cents in one day and 55 cents since last week. Biden said that it was understandable that the prices were rising, but cautioned the U.S. energy industry against excessive price increases and exploiting consumers. Which, okay, good meme. Even before the U.S. ban, many Western energy companies, including ExxonMobil and BP, moved to cut ties with Russia and limit imports. Shell. Jesus, I keep getting phone calls. Which purchased a shipment of Russian oil this week and apologized for the move on Tuesday amid international criticism and pledged to... yeah. Okay. That's a good meme. And pledged to halt further purchases of Russian energy supplies. Preliminary data from the U.S. Energy Department shows imports of Russian crude dropped to zero in the last week in February. In 2022-21, the U.S. imported roughly 245 million barrels of crude oil and petroleum products from Russia, a one-year increase of 24%. It is an important step to show Russia that energy is on the table. Okay. A former State Department official is now a senior fellow at the Democratic-leaning Center for American Progress. Bergman said that it wasn't surprising that the U.S. was able to take the step before European nations, which are more dependent on Russian energy. All this is being done in coordination, even if the steps are not symmetrical. He said we're talking to them constantly. Right. So we finally did it, even though it's not like the biggest deal in the world, I think, especially for us. I think this is more symbolic than anything. Based on past price increases, the fact that we have not had any major dips in production, and usually I'm a good guesser. Nice, 80% greed, 20% actual supply problems. Yeah, like I said, I'm sure that there are problems within the global market that may cause, some of this, but never discount the greed. So, that being said, here's a post from South Florida Wildlands Association. I follow them on Facebook. And they made a good post, and I think I should read it. Thank you for the follow, MLDR. Appreciate that. With gas prices skyrocketing in response to the Russian invasion of Ukraine and international sanctions, a good time to reflect on how the U.S. developed the biggest addiction to oil on the planet. Today, the U.S. uses nearly 20 million barrels of oil. 1 barrel equals 42 gallons per day, far more than any nation on Earth. Our nearest competition is China at less than 13 million per day. Jesus. Controversy over our dependence on oil is nothing new, and as oil prices in the US spike, loud calls for drill baby drill are predictably back in fashion. I believe Darknet made a mention of this. We surely expect to hearing those calls regarding the Everglades drilling soon. Remember, this is from South Florida Wildlands Post. Of course, there are others who have been saying for years that we can't drill our way out of this problem, and that the solution will be found in developing sustainable alternatives to fossil fuels. Yes. Here's a quote from a paper analyzing efforts to develop solar energy way back from the Eisenhower administration in 1953 to 1961, decades ago. In 1952, the Paley Commission suggested that the U.S. begin development of solar energy and other alternative sources of energy to slow a growing American dependence on Middle Eastern oil, but rejecting these recommendations, the Eisenhower administration refused to increase federal support for solar energy and terminated support for synthetic fuels. Nice. Yeah. It's a good meme. During the 50s, the funding for solar research was limited to $100,000 per year, and the Eisenhower administration torpedoed bipartisan legislation proposed in the 50s to increase solar funding to $1 million per year. Let's be honest, we had plenty of time to work on this problem, and we blew it. True. The US oil industry made trillions. Our planet heated up to unprecedented levels due to our CO2 and methane emissions, and decades after the Paley Commission's sound recommendations, we still produce most of our electricity from fossil fuels, and about 90% of our transportation energy from petroleum products. Not too late to change course. Maybe this latest crisis and crisis in oil-producing regions are inevitable, will provide the jolt that we need. I feel like this is incredibly relevant post, and I'm glad the South Florida Wildland Association made that post. That's right, back in the 50s. The correct assessment is to then say, why are we dependent on this? Why? Why are we dependent on such a destructive, economically unsound product? The correct response is to double our efforts or to increase our efforts as much as humanly possible to decouple ourselves from these fossil fuels in as many ways as possible and as quickly as possible. Germany certainly got the right idea, as they are now going to revamp their efforts to be as renewable as possible because of this crisis. It's all about the Benjamins, true. Conservatives will tell you that themselves as if it was the correct choice. Yeah. Yep. That's right. And that is the problem. As I advised, we were going to continue our coverage on the January 6th insurrection as more information comes out. Guy Refit, first January 6th defendant to stand trial, found guilty on all charges. A Texas man accused of allegedly bringing a semi-automatic pistol to the January attack on the Capitol, interfering with police, and then telling his children that traitors get shot when they wanted to turn him in to the authorities, was found guilty on all charges. The jury took less than 4 hours to deliberate the first January 6th case. Less than 4 hours. Remember how we were told that, oh man, it was just a peaceful protest, dude. It was just a regular, normal tourist, a normal, like, tour. You know, tourist tour. Yeah. Bro, where are all these reports that there was weapons? There was no weapons. You silly lefties. It was just a bunch of grandmas protesting. The jury took less than 6 hours to deliberate this case. Guy Wesley Refit, I don't know how to pronounce this, Refit, faces a maximum of 60 years in prison. His sentencing is set for June 8th. His own son testified against him and offered some of the strongest evidence in the trial. That's some good memes. Nice. Anyways, like I said, the more this goes on, the more information we find, we realize it's not a game. It wasn't a regular tour. There were absolutely weapons, not only tangentially stored, as we found out that the Oath Keepers had a cache and plans for rapid response teams to appear on the Capitol, but we've had numerous reports of individuals to be found with weapons at that point, with guns. I'm sure that this is going to be one of the numerous examples that we'll see as we continue our coverage on this. Right. Well, no, hold on. I don't believe there was any AK-47s on January 6th. I don't believe that. I think that there was numerous rifles and vast caches of guns and ammunitions that were nearby, neighboring places. But on the actual premise, I don't believe there was a AK-47. Yeah. Biden's order, study of cryptocurrency risk, creation of U.S. digital currency. I thought most of the insurrections were getting off with 6 months probation. Not this one. Not this one. U.S. digital currency, money laundering invitation. I agree. I think that's some like the people who like trespassed or who did like minor minor crimes. I think those will be getting off more leniently. But that guy was clearly intent on doing something, as he had a gun on him. There was a numerous Oath Keepers who are on the hook for sedition. We've got the Proud Boys leader, who got roped by the I think FBI, and is looking at quite the amount of prison time. That's for sure. So yeah, good. Oh, guaranteed. Guaranteed if he's given a deal, he'll rat. There is already another Proud Boy, a Proud Boy rat, who's going to spill the beans supposedly, who's willing to cooperate with authorities. So who knows? They may not even need him and just nail Enrique Tarrio. We've got another Oath Keeper who pleaded guilty to sedition and is also willing to cooperate. I don't know if it's out of the ICU, my friend. Whew. I don't know if democracy is alive, my friend. We've been on a downhill spiral for quite some time. The most serious cases will take a bit longer, I'd imagine, although it's been 2 years. Yeah, it might take. There's like hundreds and hundreds of cases. I think there's almost 1,000 at this point. So I'm sure that some of the minor ones will get like the 6 months, but there are some serious ones coming, especially when it comes to the Oath Keepers and Proud Boys, the usual suspects. They're not going easy on those. Correct. Biden to order study of cryptocurrency risk creation of U.S. digital currency. Biden signed an executive order on the government oversight of cryptocurrency. Biden has also directed the Treasury Department and other federal agencies to study the impact of cryptocurrency on financial stability and national security. The executive order has been widely anticipated by the finance industry, crypto bros, speculators, and lawmakers who have compared the cryptocurrency market to the Wild West. It kind of is. There's so many problems with this. There are some positives, but I think that the overwhelming perception is that it's more negative than anything. I'm not sure what regulations they plan to do. I think that making a digital dollar is not gonna. I don't think it makes sense. I don't think it makes sense at all. But we'll follow up and see what happens. I think we actually covered a story with the initial thought of an actual digital like blockchain dollar. I guess would be the closest thing that I can imagine. But no, I don't think that this should happen. I almost never use cash. It's all digital. Yeah, it's already digital, kind of, basically. Yeah, cover 250,000 of your blockchain account. Yeah. Oh man, I think it's more trouble than it's worth. I would rather use crypto than PayPal. Well, PayPal sometimes can be a bit annoying. Wanting to get into something too late because they don't understand it. Biden? Yeah, maybe. Crypto does have some of its positives. I will say that. But I don't know if I'm like 100% on board. Especially creating like a digital like crypto dollar, I guess. I don't know. I don't know about that. Let me close this. Quit. Okay. Sorry, folks, just getting myself settled. Settled for work, unfortunately. Alright. That is... Yeah, it's basically just digital cash. That's true. If you use it like that, it becomes, if you try to play it like stocks, I mean, I've seen so many, like, altcoins, become, like, schemes if you play it like stocks, but if you just use it like digital cash, it's literally just like digital cash. That's a bit... I don't want to say completely anonymous, but it's a little bit better. It's a little bit better. Remember, nothing is anonymous on the internet, but it's a bit better. Technology is cool itself, but the people speculating on it ruined it. Yeah, exactly. These effectively pyramid schemes. Yeah. maybe if you couldn't do that, maybe if there was like a scenario where you couldn't do it and play it like stocks, like, gambling like stocks, maybe. And you, if it's just using like, if it's just like digital cash, then that's, that's fine. All right, folks, we are continuing our journey. Every day, we get a little bit closer. We get one page closer. I just whispered you the article about how a huge rich person thing is, and they control the market. Yeah, there's certain a handful of essentially like people hoard all of the one day closer to the apocalypse. True. Bitcoin has its own 1% who control the outsized share of wealth. Damn. Such is the nature of commodification, and look at that. This is just how markets go. I mean, like, no matter how you play it out, this is just the nature of markets, and essentially, well, capitalism, right? That's the whole point. Even this independent ecosystem, allegedly independent ecosystem, it just naturally gravitates towards this tiny peak at the top, and then like the rest, you know? Oh my god, I had what would be... Am I reading that right? 20,000 worth of Bitcoin that I lost the password to. Oh my god. What? Jeez. It was back in 2013, so nothing what it is now. Wow. Jeez. Yikes. It was like $50. Wow. Wow. Yikes. I almost bought at 50. Yeah, I was sleeping at the wheel. I had no idea. I don't tend to gamble. Alright, folks, we're on page 9 of the technical summary. Climate change has altered marine, terrestrial, and freshwater ecosystems all around the world. Very high confidence. Effects have been experienced earlier, more widespread, and with further reaching consequences than anticipated. Biological responses, including changes in physiology, growth, abundances, geographic placement, shifting seasonal timing, are often not sufficient to cope with recent climate change. I suspect that the reason for that is because everything is happening at such a quick pace that obviously nature isn't keeping up. Something that's supposed to take thousands of years is happening within our timeline. Climate change has caused local species loss, increase in disease, mass mortality of events of plants and animals, very high confidence, resulting in the first climate-driven extinctions, medium confidence, ecosystem restructuring, increases in areas burned by wildfire, high confidence, and decline in key ecosystem services. High confidence. Climate-driven impacts on ecosystems have caused measurable economic and livelihood losses, altered cultural practices, recreational activities around the world. High confidence. I just wanted it for drugs. Anthropogenic climate change has exposed ecosystems to conditions that are unprecedented over millennia. High confidence. Which has greatly impacted the species on land and in the ocean. Very high confidence. Consistent with expectations, species in all ecosystems have shifted their geographic range and altered the timing of seasonal events. Very high confidence. Among thousands of species spread across terrestrial, freshwater, and marine systems, half to two-thirds have shifted their ranges to higher latitudes. Very high confidence. In response to warming, the move of diseases and their vectors have brought new disease into the high Arctic and at higher elevations in mountain regions with local wildlife and humans are not, to which local wildlife and humans are not resistant. High confidence. Next pandemic, folks. These processes have led to emerging hybridization, competition, temporal or spatial mismatches in predator-prey, insect-plant, host-parasite relationships, and invasion of alien plant pests or pathogens. Medium confidence. Observed responses of species to climate change have altered biodiversity and impacted ecosystem structures and resilience in most regions. Very high confidence. Range shifts reduce biodiversity in the warmest regions and location as adaptation limits are exceeded. High confidence. Simultaneously, these shifts homogenize biodiversity. Medium confidence. In regions receiving climate, migrant species alter food webs and eliminate distinctiveness of communities. Medium confidence. Increasing losses of habitat-forming species such as trees, corals, kelp, seagrass have caused irreversible shift in some ecosystems and threatened associated biodiversity in marine systems. High confidence. There is a study going on about the impacts of not only the algae that's happening here in South Florida, but how that is messing up the seagrass, which is incredibly important for the manatee. We're essentially starving them out, to be quite frank. Our actions are effectively starving out the Florida manatee. Human-introduced invasive non-native species can reduce or replace native species and alter ecosystem characteristics if they fare better than endemic species in new climate-altered ecological niches. High confidence. Such invasive species effects are most prominent in geographically constrained areas, including islands, semi-enclosed seas, and mountains, and they increase vulnerability in these systems. High confidence. Phenological shifts increase risk of temporal mismatches between trophic level within ecosystems. Medium confidence, which can lead to reduced food availability and population abundances. Medium confidence, and can further destabilize ecosystem resilience. Yes, it's so many other species as well, but manatees are the one people notice, right? And it's interesting because the Bay Area and these seagrass like plains, I guess you can call them seagrass like areas, provide highways, super highways for these fish and other wildlife, and it's gone. It's gone. Or dying anyways. The fish aren't doing too well yet. Yeah. Yep. Because their habitat, crucial habitat is being destroyed. As a consequence of this, a lot of fish that rely on these superhighways and, well, in Florida specifically, the mangroves as well, are being essentially decimated. At the warm equatorial and lower edge of distributions, adaptation limits to human-induced warming have led to widespread local population losses, extirpations that result in range contractions. Very high confidence. Among land plants and animals, local population loss was detected in around 50% of studied species and is often attributed to extreme events. High confidence, such as extirpations, are most common in tropical habitats, 55% of them. freshwater systems, yikes, 74%, but also high in marine, 51%, and terrestrial, 46% habitats. Many mountaintop species have suffered population losses along lower elevations, leaving them increasingly restricted to a smaller area and at higher risk of extinction. Medium confidence. Global extinctions due to climate change are already being observed, with 2 extinctions currently attributed to anthropogenic climate change. Medium confidence. Oof. Yikes. Climate-induced extinctions include mass extinctions are common in the paleo record, underlying the potential of climate change to have catastrophic impacts on species and ecosystems. High confidence. Jesus Christ. Ecosystem change has led to the loss of specialized ecosystems where warming has reduced thermal habitat, as at the poles, at the top of mountains, and the equator, with the hottest ecosystems becoming intolerable for many species. Very high confidence. For example, warming reduced ice, thawing permafrost, and a changing hydrological cycle have resulted in the contraction of polar and mountain ecosystems. The Arctic is showing increased arrival of species from warmer areas on land and in the sea, with a declining of extent of tundra and ice-dependent species such as the polar bear. High confidence. True. Similar patterns of change in the Antarctic terrestrial and marine environment are beginning to emerge, such as declining ranges in krill and emperor penguins. Medium confidence. Coral reefs are suffering global declines with abrupt shifts in community composition persistent for years. Very high confidence. Deserts and tropical systems are decreasing in diversity due to high heat, stress, and extreme events. High confidence. In contrast, arid lands are displaying varied responses across the globe in response to regional changes in the hydrological cycle, the water cycle. Climate change is affecting ecosystem services connected to human health, livelihoods, and well-being. In terrestrial ecosystems, carbon uptake services linked to a CO2 fertilization effects are being increasingly limited by drought and warming and exacerbated by non-climatic anthropogenic impacts. High confidence. Deforestation, draining and burning of peatlands and tropical forests, and thawing of the Arctic permafrost have already shifted some areas from carbon sinks to carbon sources. Jesus. High confidence. The severity and outbreak extent of forest insect pests increase in several regions. High confidence. Woody plant expansion into grasslands and savannas linked to increased CO2 has reduced grazing land, while invasive grasses in semi-arid land increases the risk of fire. High confidence. Yikes. Coastal blue carbon systems are already impacted by multiple climate and non-climate drivers. Very high confidence. Warming and CO2 fertilization have altered the coastal ecosystem biodiversity, making carbon storage or release regionally variable. High confidence. Human communities, especially indigenous peoples and those most directly reliant on the environment for subsistence, are already negatively impacted by the loss of ecosystem functions, replacement of endemic species, and regime shifts across the landscape and seascape. High confidence. Indigenous knowledge contains unique information of sources about past changes and potential solutions to present issues. I agree. Tangible heritage, such as traditional harvesting sites or species, and archaeological and cultural heritage sites. Intangible heritage, such as festivals and rites associated with nature-based activities. Endemic knowledge and unique insight about plants and animals are being lost. High confidence. As 80% of the world's remaining biodiversity is on the indigenous homelands. What? Wow. These losses have cascading impacts on cultural and linguistic diversity and indigenous knowledge systems, food security, health, and livelihood, often with irreparable damages and consequences. Medium evidence, high agreement. Cultural losses threaten adaptivity capacity and may accumulate into intergenerational trauma and irrevocable loss of sense of belonging, valued cultural practice, identity, and home. Medium confidence. I saw in the book, 1491, that a lot of the Amazon, the indigenous folks, terraformed and kept it. It was not, like that by nature. They had effectively terraformed it to keep it, sustainable in the way that they did. They knew how to work the land. They know how to work the land. synthesis of observed global and regional impacts on ecosystems and human systems attributed to climate change, including extreme climate variability. Climate change has altered marine, terrestrial, and freshwater ecosystems all around the world. Impacts on changing ecosystem structure, species range shifts, changes time, and change in provisioning services are attributed to climate change alone, or in some cases in combination with other anthropogenic stressors such as land use and pollution. The strength of the impact is defined as low, limited evidence, intermediate, increased diversity of evidence, or high evidence. Provisioning services over a range of ecosystem services, excluding food, are not necessarily comparable across regions. Climate change has already had diverse impacts on human systems, including impacts on water security, food production, health, well-being, and cities and settlements and infrastructure. Here, direction of impacts, increasing adverse impact or mixed impacts, and confidence in attribution to climate change, including extreme climate variability, or in some cases in combination with other anthropogenic stressors are indicated. Water scarcity considers groundwater, water availability, water quality, and drought in cities. Reduced animal and livestock health and productivity considers example heat stress, disease, productivity, mortality. Reduced fishery yields and aquaculture production includes marine and freshwater fisheries and production. Infectious diseases include waterborne and vector-borne diseases. Stress responses considers example human heat stress, mortality, labor productivity, harm from wildfire. I think the Great Plains were terraformed too. I have to look up that, but I wouldn't be surprised. Productivity, harm from wildfire, nutritional deficiencies, and mental health. Migration displacement assessment refers to evidence of displacement and or migration attributable to climate extremes. Inland flooding and associated damages considers example river overflows, heavy rains, glacier outbursts, urban flooding. Flood storm-induced damages in coastal areas include damages due to example cyclones, sea level rise, and storm surges. Yeah. Widespread and severe loss and damage to human and natural systems are being driven by human-induced climate change, increasing the frequency and/or intensity and/or duration of extreme weather events, including droughts, wildfires, terrestrial and marine heat waves, cyclones, high confidence, and flood, low confidence. Extremes are surpassing the resilience of some ecological and human systems and challenging the adaptation capacity of others, including the impact with irreversible consequences, high confidence. Vulnerable people and human systems and climate-sensitive species and ecosystems are most at risk. Very high confidence. Extreme climate events comprising conditions beyond which many species are adapted are occurring on all continents with severe impact. Very high confidence. The most severe impacts are occurring in the most climate-sensitive species and ecosystems characterized by traits that limit their ability to regenerate between events or to adapt, and those most exposed by climate hazards, high confidence. Losses of local plant and animal populations have been widespread and many associated with large increase in the hottest yearly temperatures and heat wave events, very high confidence. Marine heat wave events have led to widespread and abrupt and extensive mortality of key habitat-forming species among tropical corals, kelps, seagrass, and mangroves, as well as mortality of wildlife species including benthic sessile species, high confidence on land. Extreme events have also been implicated in the mass mortality of fruit bats and freshwater fish. Yikes. Some extreme events have already emerged which exceeded the projected global mean warming conditions for 2100, leading to abrupt changes in marine and terrestrial ecosystems. High confidence. For some forest types, an increase in the frequency, severity, and duration of wildfires and droughts have resulted in abrupt and possibly irreversible changes. Medium to high confidence. The interplay between extreme events, long-term climate trends, and other human pressures have pushed some climate-sensitive ecosystems towards thresholds that exceed their natural regenerative capacity. Medium to high confidence. Yikes. Such as what we're seeing in the Amazon. Basically. Extreme events can alter or impede evolutionary response to climate change and potential for acclimation to extreme conditions both on land and in the ocean. Medium to high confidence. Yeah, this is what we mentioned earlier, like the severity of climate change and, more importantly, the speed at which everything is happening. Things that are supposed to be once in, 10,000 year events are happening within our lifetime. Things that are supposed to be happening in thousands of years are happening sometimes multiple times. I mean, we've seen records being broken back to back every year. Climate-related extremes have affected the productivity of agricultural, forestry, and fishery sectors. High confidence droughts, floods, wildfires, and marine heat waves contributed to reduced food availability and increased food prices, threatening food security, nutrition, and livelihood of millions of people across regions. I would probably say this kind of sprinkles out to possibly billions. Extreme events caused economic losses in forest productivity in crops and livestock farming, including losses in wheat production in 2012, 2016, 2018, with the severity of impacts from extreme heat and drought tripling over the last 50 years in Europe. High confidence. Forests were impacted by extreme heat and drought impacting timber sales, for example, in Europe. High confidence. Marine heat waves, including well-documented events along the west coast of North America, 2013 to 2016, and east coast Australia, 2015, 2016 to 2016 to 2017 and 2020, have caused the collapse of regional fisheries. Jesus, and aquaculture. High confidence. Human populations exposed to extreme weather and climate events are at risk of food insecurity with lower diversity in diets, leading to malnutrition and increased risk of disease. High confidence. Okay. We got we were doing pretty good. Page 13. Nice. Okay. Gotta remember that. Page 13. Alright, folks. Thank you for joining here in this gloom-filled session. If you guys enjoy the content, don't forget to hit the follow button. It really does help us out. And picked a good century to go vegan, yeah. You get 5 free emotes. And it does help us out. Please join us on the YouTubes. Join us on the Discords to keep up with the channel. As always, please stay safe. Yes, yes, exactly. Become a plant-based pimp. Please take care. Please stay safe. I love you all, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. See ya! I haven't seen Idan in quite a while. Alright, folks, we're heading out. Make sure you give a warm welcome. Once again, thank you so much for the raid. Thank you for all the follows. Thank you for the support. I appreciate that. We're heading out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. See ya!